Hello everyone, this is Sakai here, and today we'll be doing a machine from Vulnhub known as Empire LupinOne. So a quick overview of the machine here. This is it. So quick overview is that we enumerate the machine, do a map scan of the machine. We found that two ports are open, SSH at 22, and a web service running at port 80. Enumerating that web service, we find that there is an interesting directory in robots.txt. Now, this machine is very CTF-like, so expect some CTF-like flavor there, like some kind of tips given it, some kind of breadcrumbs spread out across here and there. So we find that secret directory, we enumerate that secret directory, and we find another secret directories in there where we can find a hint that there might be a OpenSSH private key lying somewhere around there. We enumerate that and we find it. But unfortunately, that SSH private key is password protected. So we have to find the passkey. We do that by using John. We find the passkey and we log in as one of these box creators, which is ISEC64. So we log in as ISEC64. Now, once we log in as ISEC64, we do sudo to see what permissions do we have on the machine. So we can find that there is another user named Arsene, and we can run a particular Python script as the user Arsene. So that's pretty interesting thing. One more interesting thing about this whole thing is that there is a Python module named webbrowser.py, which we have write access to the module itself, which is in user lib Python 3.9 webbrowser.py. So we can change it to our own reverse shell payload. And once we run that using Arsene, the script, we get the shell back as Arsene. So we have escalated our privileges from ISEC64 to Arsene. Now, once we run as Arsene, we can run a linpiece.sh or something like that. We can easily see that we can run pip as sudo. So if we can run pip as sudo, there we can always go to GTFO bins for this stuff and find an exploit for this and hopefully get to root. So let's get started. So first thing that I'd like to point here is that Empire LupinOne, this machine is running on NAT. So are all my virtual machines. It's always a good idea to run these at NAT. Now, as you can see here, it is already has an IP address in here. Some machines do not have this IP address, so you can use NetDiscover to find them. It's really very easy to do that. So I'm not really going into that right now, but this machine has an IP address and we're going to use our IP address in here. So let's actually get started. So we're going to start with an nmap scan. So normally I do not use the -b- flag, which is a flag to scan all the ports, all the 65,535 ports. I always use the top 1,000 ports first, that is without this -b- flag. But since we have this in our own network and this will take a very fast time, very fast time to finish. That's why I'm using this -b- because it does both. But normally you wouldn't want to use -b- because the scan times are very, very long and sometimes Nmap just hangs it. So we get it. So here, press enter and hit the password in here. And as you can see, it goes really fast. It really goes very fast because we're on the same network in here. Okay, so here we go. Now we got two ports open. 22 is running SSH. 80 is running some web service in here. Yeah. Some interesting thing. Oh, yeah. Let's go it one by one. Let's not jump into and get lost. So I'm gonna actually split the terminal vertically, and let's see in 22 SSH we see that we are facing an OpenSSH 8.4.8.4 P1. My terminal is acting strange. I don't know why. So you can actually do here, search exploit OpenSSH to see if there's any related vulnerabilities in here. We get a lot of vulnerabilities, but sadly, I don't think 8.4 P1 has one. Yeah, so normally SSH does not have those kind of vulnerabilities which can possibly trigger remote code execution, like you would actually download a script from exploitdb, run it with the IP, and you can get a shell on the system just by exploiting some SSH vulnerability. Yes, there is some kind of vulnerability. There might be some remote command execution like you see in here, but normally you don't see RCE exploits in SSH. Normally it is some kind of a username enumeration like this one, username enumeration, or some other kind of other authenticated enumeration or something like that. So it's pretty unusual. If you find RCE for SSH, that means it's pretty old version of OpenSSH which follows this. I mean, as you can see here, it remote stack overflow. This is OpenSSH novel network 6.5. So it's pretty old. This pretty old stuff. So yes, so skipping over SSH. I mean, it's very typical to have SSH and web service open in this kind of machines. It's very typical. So I think I should actually make this bigger so you guys can see it. Yes. All right. So port 80, we have Apache HTTPD 2.4.48. Now, again, you can actually go here and search for search exploit Apache, and it will give you a tons and tons of results here, because we are also looking at Apache Tomcat, which runs at port 8080. But yeah, it's also Apache Struts. Struts has multiple vulnerabilities, including RCE vulnerabilities, and whatnot. So we could modify our search a little bit to get very less results and to get less perplexed by this thing. Version number is important. So we click on this. We see that there's nothing. Let's remove the HTTPD and try again. Okay, we do see something. But, you know, this is Tomcat. We're not dealing with Tomcat in here because Tomcat should run on 8080. And if it was a Tomcat, Nmap should actually tell us that it's a Tomcat. We're not dealing with open meetings. We're not dealing with mod SSL. Now, these two can be. It can be. You know, I'm not really ruling out the possibility that it cannot be that, to give an unbiased walkthrough of this box. So I'm not saying that it can be. We should actually keep a very close eye on these two, because these two are found on Apache, running Apache service. So, but let's not actually go ahead and run exploits before actually enumerating well. So we always need to enumerate this box well before we are certain that this thing will work or this thing will not work. The next line is actually very interesting. It says it has a robots.txt, which is very common. Every website does have this. And it is actually suggested that you should have robots.txt. It has one disallowed entry, which is this /tilde my files. Now, if you go to Firefox and you type in symbol in web directories, you can see something interesting stuff. So, okay, I just Googled it wrong. This is tilde symbol, web directories. So you can see here, this thing generally means the root directory in .NET web type projects. I would say that this actually means in general cases. So if you're dealing with a web directory that has this as a prefix, you're pretty much dealing with some kind of root directory stuff, some kind in the user, inside the user directory. So you're kind of dealing with web directories which are directed inside some user, inside something like that. Points to the root of your web application. Web developers are familiar with using relative paths for all links, including hyperlinks, images, and style sheet. So I think we should actually take a closer look at this one. You know, it is my gut feeling, but okay, let's not actually go too far ahead. Let's actually follow our methodology, which is to slowly get deeper into this stuff. So I'm going to run Nikto here because Nikto is a very powerful tool, and Nikto can detect vulnerabilities if it exists in the web service, in the web service we're currently enumerating. So -h is for the host, and this is the web server. Let it run for a while. Yeah, I mean, one thing more I'd like to add here is that instead of typing this IP address, all of the time, you can store it as an environment variable. Like you can do something like this. I'm not actually showing it here because I don't want to actually complex this more, because this is a very easy box. You can do something like this. Pound IP $IP is equal to your IP, and you can do something like this and export it so that it would appear in your env. So if I do env, something, it would appear in here, so you know that you're dealing with this one. So whenever you type IP instead of this whole IP address, my terminal is acting very weirdly. So instead of you typing this whole thing, you would actually get this. So you don't have to type this IP over and over and over again. All right, so Nikto actually found many things. So we have this one, robots.txt contains smart entry, which should be manually viewed. Nmap already told us that. We have manual web server found, manual images, directory indexing found, image directory indexing found. So it did some brute forcing kind of stuff, Nikto, and it got this result. The thing I'd like to add here is if you're looking at manual, that really means that we are in an Apache. It's an Apache manual in here. That is, I think that's not something that we should be worried about. But yeah, we could actually find something in there. So going into this web page, we see Arsène Lupin, the gentleman thief. This is a JPG image. This box is based on the gentleman thief called Arsène Lupin. I don't know much about him, but I think it's a novel or something. So view page source. I don't know what I clicked before. Okay, so here we see this thing, and in the links it's commented out. It's an easy box. Don't give up. Okay, so I told you it's a CTF-like box. So we would find stuff like this all the way, and this wouldn't be there in a real life situation. Like, it would be ridiculous if this happened in real life situations. So we have this one. Now, obviously, the next step here is to brute force the hell out of this web service, brute force everything in here. So let's do it. Let's do it. No problem. Let's do it. So I'm going to be using GoBuster for this because I think it's my favorite tool. So GoBuster dir mode for directory brute forcing, -u for the URL, -w for the word list, which is user share word lists, dir buster directory list 2.3 medium.txt. Now, this is a very effective word list. Directory list 2.3 medium.txt is a very effective word list. It has many, it's a very big word list, to be honest, so to say. But if you use this, I would not generally use this when I'm doing machines on Hack the Box, or when I'm doing machines, when I'm connected to a VPN and doing machines on over that VPN, because the same thing with Nmap. This thing can be incredibly slow. So it would like take, in my case, it would like take 10-15 minutes to run. Of course, it would differ on many factors, but generally it would take many time to run. So normally I wouldn't run this. Normally I'd run a very small word list before, which would have more probability of hitting the word right there. But yeah, you can actually use this. So we see. And we see that whatever Nikto said to us, there's manual. We found that. So let's go to the manual. I think manual is just Apache manual. Let's go to image and JavaScript and see what's up. So here we go. Image, we go to image. We see that we have the Arsène Lupin JPEG image here. Nothing much to see. Then we got to go to JavaScript. It's forbidden. We can't see that. Let's go to page source to see if we have something in CTF-like. We see nothing. Of course, let's go to the manual to finally check that what we are seeing is correct or not. Yes, it is an Apache web server, and we see all this, the manual page of that. Now, of course, attacks can be done from here. In fact, there is some kind of attacks with the PHPs, which can be done here, not gonna lie. But let's actually not get ahead of ourselves. Let's actually scan, gather information first before actually hitting it, for actually going for the offensive operation, so to say. We get another directory named server status, which is status 403. So that means it is forbidden. It's kind of forbidden. Server status always has status 403. Nothing really interesting really popped up. We should now really go ahead and enumerate what we found earlier. through nmap and through Nicto. So going to robots.txt, it discloses the fact that we have some kind of a file in here. Like I said before, now let's go to it. My files. If we go through it, we see an error 404. Of course, this is not the error 404 which we see, because this is actually not an error 404. So if we if we go to page source, we can see it's just a title. It's nothing. Then below we can see another comment saying you can do it, keep trying. It's a CTF-like box again, so that's why it's giving us this breadcrumbs. So let's actually look at what we found up until this point, because now it's very easy to get lost. So the thing is, we found a web server, or Apache web server, and we found this very unusual file here. So let me actually go to my notepad here, or my mouse pad here. Notepad is in Windows. So let's see, we found this web service here, and we found this thing, very interesting. So is it possible that we might find something inside this, like we might find some stuff here? Or is it possible that we might, let me just copy this, it'll be easier. Or if we might find something in here, it is possible. Now, we already brute forced this thing with directories, we really found nothing, so I'm gonna try something new. Let's say something.txt is hidden here, something text is hidden here, or some PHP file is hidden here. You never know. Or there might be some CMS software, which is, some down the road, something in here, then here, then here, then here might be a CMS. And you have to exploit that CMS. So this is not very uncommon. This is very common. You go through a couple of directories and then you find the CMS, or something in here, then go here, and all of this stuff, you can do it. Obviously, I'm not going to do any kind of a directory traversal attacks or so, because I simply don't see the point in doing that. It's literally nothing. We can do it, but I don't think we could find the results for it. So let's actually try. Let's actually go for it. So the first thing that I'm go for it is doing this thing before, to see if there is anything. Yeah, before actually we do this, I'm gonna actually teach you a concept here, I'd say. So you know that Linux, in Linux, you can hide files by adding this dot before a file. So suppose you have a file like this. Okay, now if you do lsla, well, you can see this file. You can see this file, and if you use the GUI, you can also see this file. But if you do this, just add a dot before it, you cannot see the file if you're in the GUI operation. Let's actually practically show you how this is done. So let's go to the terminal. Okay, so yeah, we see ls-la. We see that we have something called johncena.txt, and you can't see me. That is why this John Cena. We have this dot before it. So those of you who know, Git always uses this .git ignore, just stuff that you can't see it in the GUI. So if you go here, you can't see anything. You don't see johncena.txt in here, but if you're on the terminal, you see johncena.txt. So this is a very cool way to hide files that maybe it may come handy when we are actually looking for hidden files in here. So let's actually do our work then. So I'm going to actually use FUF now. FUF, so -u, and then -u for the URL. Forgot to mention that. We are now going to look inside the my files folder to see if we find anything. They have to be very patient while doing this kind of stuff. So we might be looking for another files might here. So it might be another directory, it might be a text file, it might be a PHP file. I'm looking for a directory. So I'm just gonna leave it there with fuzz as a keyword, because if I don't use fuzz, I don't know what it might use. It can be another directory like this. So yeah, let's actually do fuzz. Then hold on. Yeah, cool. -w user share word list, Turbuster, directory list, hit tab, 2.3 medium, no, not the lowercase one, 2.3 medium.txt, good. Hit enter, it will go on. And it's very fast because it's on our non-network, just as I said. I found 200 status on something. Yeah, it's nothing really. Meanwhile, it's going on. We should always run some parallel scans in here. So let's see. So now we're gonna actually run this fuzz on. We ran it on my files, right? So I think now it's time for us to run as a separate one. So as I said, sorry for that, misclick. So going in here, we should say that, find something else. We should just see if there's a txt file. Let's not get to the hidden portion before. If there's a txt file, please let us know. So I've fired off this scan. This scan just finished, found really nothing. So now let's see, let's fine tune this a bit more. So we see that there is no directory inside the My Files folder. Let's see if there is some, we are doing this one with this one right here. All right, so let's see if there is any hidden text directories in here. So we hit enter, let it run, and we find that there's many things in here, but unfortunately these are 403 and these are normal files. I don't think there's any discrepancies or there's anything suspicious to look at in here. So meanwhile, this scan is completing. We should go back to the web server to look at if something we're missing in here. And wait for some of these scans to finish before we can actually move towards the next. So up until this point, we have fuzzed this thing. Now, yeah, if we don't find anything with all of these fuzzes, what we are going to do, if we don't find anything, the next methodology would be to change this thing and to go for the very root of the, we could actually change this word list. But if we really can't find it also, I mean, if we change this word list and then also we can't find anything, we should actually go back to Nmap and go for a UDP scan in here, because some services run on UDP, they're vulnerable, we can attack them. It's not really unusual. I think the Stuxnet bot used the UDP protocol of some Windows application to infect computers. So we see 403 for everything, which not what we're looking for is not here. So we used .fuzz.txt. Interesting. It didn't find anything in my files.fuzz.txt. So we can use PHP. But before we can use PHP, I just like to see that if there is anything, if there exist any kind of directories which is like my files. So yeah, I mean, if there's my files, there can be other files too, right? There can be other directories like this too, right? So we can, okay, and immediately we get a directory named secret like this. So everything, every parameter, every portion needs to be fuzzed properly. So going here, we find that there is a secret directory, but we skipped over another thing. We didn't see that if this is, let me just make this a bit bigger for so that you can understand. Yeah, so we have to see that we have PHP files in it now. So you can actually use the flags here to test for multiple files like txt or PHP. But we found the directory in here. So let me just go ahead and actually go for this one. So let's ph secret. So we go to secret here and we find a text message. See, hello friend, I'm happy that you found my secret directory. I created like this to share with you my create SSH private key file. It's hidden somewhere here so that hackers don't find and track my passphrase with fast track. Interesting. And this is from your best friend, Isaac64. Interesting. So now this hints at three things actually in this little thing. This is a very CTF-like. This actually hints at three things, if you can see it. The first thing is there is an SSH private key file somewhere around here. I don't know where, but it's somewhere around here. And it can be cracked with fast track. That means this is actually needs a pass key to log in to this Empire Lupin system and the machine, and it can be cracked using fast track, and the account can be ISEC64. So this is actually very interesting stuff in here we're finding. So we have to find this SSH private key file before we can move on to anything else. So let's go here. So we have to find that, right? We have to find the SSH private key file. Now, SSH private key file, it's a text document, so I'm not going to be going for PHP files enumeration here anymore. Now I'm going to be going for, let's see, we actually did with fuzz.txt in our root folder, right? We didn't find anything. Also, we did this fuzz.txt in our my files. We didn't find anything. So let's see if we can find something inside the secret folder, so to speak, secret directory, so to speak. So secret, and we do fuzz.txt. Don't forget that we have to go for hidden, because it says that, hold on, because it says that it is hidden somewhere. So if it is hidden, I think we might have some luck using the dot here. It seems sensible at this point. So we use a dot here. And we are finding some stuff in here. Obviously, all of this is just as discussed before. It's 403 normal stuff, normal directory stuff. Nothing very important here. Oh, wait, we got a 200 in here. Now, these things can be filtered when you are giving that command in here. You can filter out which URL you should pick, which URL you should not pick to display onto the screen. But to make matters simple, I'm just showing you the whole thing, because yeah, if there is more than one file, you should always be flagging this, but it seems to me it's an easy machine, so that's why not really going for it. So we found that it's my secret, so we should go here and verify that it is indeed exists or not, my secret.txt, and we find something very unusual here. So at this point, I think we can try our vector of, this is the OpenSSH key, so cracking this with John with the fast track and so on. But before we actually go to that, let me actually, this is encrypted. This is encrypted using some kind of an encryption algorithm. So we can make an educated guess in here. We can see that it's not really base 64. It doesn't look like base 64 to me, because in base 64, you have this equal to sign in the back. Most of base 64 strings, I'm not saying all of them, but this equal to sign in the back always always points that this is a base 64 string, but this doesn't seem to be a base 64 string to me. It can be rot encryption algorithm used. So rot algorithm, basically what it does is it ships the algorithm place by a certain number. So rot 13 means that it ships the entire alphabet by 13, and it picks up the corresponding algorithm after shifting to 13 places, if that makes sense. So we should actually detect what kind of algorithm is used in here. So I'm going to go to detect encrypt and decode.france, decode.fr stands for decode.france here. And I've already pasted it before from my previous session, it seems. So, okay, we will analyze this. And it says base 58. Okay, so we were wrong about rot. We were wrong about base 16. It's a base 58. So let's actually go here and say base 58 decode. We'll go to this website and decode our string. Oh, we got it. Begin OpenSSH private key. Now, I'm actually a bit scared that this might lose the formatting, because if it's not formatted properly, the key would not function, even if it has been, yeah, it would not even generate a hash. So copy all this. I think I could just click in here, and I think we have the encrypted OpenSSH private key of the user ISEX64. So go here. Okay, well, let me delete this because, well, yeah, why not? So I have already copied and pasted it in private key in here. So copy paste it, it looks like just this. But remember, this thing is encrypted. This thing is, I mean, we can actually try to run this, but it would seem that this is, let me just close all these tabs. I've been doing work from before. Okay, don't save. Yeah, I've been working on some exploit development for things. So, all right, so this private key, we can actually check why if we are trying to log in as i664, this would say that we need some passphrase. So I think, yeah, let's actually let's actually, we don't need to don't save the changes. This thing, we should let this open. So let's actually try this. There's no harm in doing that. So we can go here. Let me make this bigger for you guys. You can do SSH-I for the identity file, which is our private key in here. Then we got ICE64 at 192, 168, 183, 140. So if you have a private key, you can log in as this. So if we hit enter, it asks for passphrase for key, private key. We don't have that passphrase yet, so we don't know how to log in. So if we hit enter, permission denied, it says, nope, you can't enter because you don't have the passphrase for the private key that you are trying to use. So we know that this is encrypted. Obviously, we can use John, so let's use it. So John. Now we have to create the hash before we can use it. So we can use, now I've already have the hash and I've already broken it. So I'm going to show you guys the command in here. So let's see. So John, if you go here and, you know, just see how to create John with private. So John generate hash. You can always take help of Google. It's not that hard. Sometimes you forget the commands, and you can always actually take help of Google. The thing is that you know the methodology that's actually is important. So you can generate the hash and hold on for this simple password hashes. So John the Ripper, the follow instructions, you get the hash. Wait, well, John crack private key. Go here. And we have, okay, they're just get the private key on local machine, cat ID RSA. Yeah, it's I'd like to show you this thing. Some keys does have these things, proc type 4 encrypted, dcane4, all these things, but our key doesn't have this, so we have to check if it's really encrypted or not. So they're doing John, and yes, you can use ssh to john.py IDRSA to IDRSA hash. So there is ssh to John, which is, I think, in user share John directory. And yeah, you can use it to generate the hash. I've already generated the hash, so I will not do it. Let me just go here and just show you the hash. So this is the hash I've generated by using that command. If you're confused, don't worry. Let me just show you where SSH to John is there. I think it's in user share. The place where all the tools are there. So user share John, hit enter. Yes, so all the tools were there, and you can find every Python file which is there. And I think SSH to John is somewhere. This is it. So you can use this SSH to John Python file script to generate the hash, and then you can crack the hash using John. So how do you do that? Well, let me demonstrate here. You can use John word list. Wait, hold on. John hash. You put the name of the file hash and then the word list you're trying to use. In this case, because it is hinted here that we should use the fast track where it is. I think it's in secret. Yeah. Passphrase with fast track. You can use fast track. You can use rockq.txt, but it will take a huge amount of time, and I'm not used rockq.txt. So you can try rockq.txt while you're doing this machine for yourself. You can do some other, you can use some other word list too, see if it can works. But since it's hinted that you can use fasttrack.txt, I've used fasttrack.txt. So I've already cracked the hash, so I would not crack it again. So yeah, that's a very useful feature of John. Once you have cracked the hash, it will not crack it again. It will just simply store it in a database, and you can just simply do show hash, and it can show the hash. So it's a very handy feature of John. Once you have cracked the file, you don't need to actually crack it again because it stores the hash, the decrypted hash in here. So as you can see, we find the passcode, passphrase, which is password, in obviously in leet terminology. So we go to here and we see that passphrase is, come on, just do this, okay? And keep this in copy because now we are going to log into that machine using SSH. So now we have the passphrase. Okay, are you ready? So -I for private key, the identity file, IceX64 at 192.168.183.140. Enter passphrase, just simply paste it. And we log in as IceX64. Congratulations. So now we have a foothold on this machine, and now we can actually make our way to root. So this is an SSH login, so you don't have to worry about terminal settings. This is not a reverse shell. It's stable. It has all of the things, auto completion, previous command, all of the things that we need. So you don't have to worry about that. So what do we do when we first get into a machine? Obviously, we explore our own home directory. We have the user.txt flag, which I'm not going to open because you should do it in your own to actually get a feel for it. So interesting thing is we can use bash history because bash history is also a very interesting directory. Some commands are in here which can be hinting towards some kind of a vector or something. Then there is Python history. Then there is SSH, obviously the SSH directory. So let's actually take a deeper look at this. Let's actually see if there's any other user in there. And we do see that there is a user named Arsene in here. So when I'm doing privilege escalation things, my go-to stuff is the Swiss key repo. Privilege escalation. This is a GitHub repository. If you don't know about Swiss key repo, it is the most awesome thing to exist ever. And it'll take some time. Yeah. Payload all the things, Linux. This is amazing. This repo is amazing. If you are stuck on something, if you need help, if you need some methodology check, you can always find it in here. So no problem on that. So you can do this. Obviously, you can go through all of these commands in here, or otherwise there are some tools, some privilege escalation checker tools like linpeas or linenum. You can use them too. First thing I'm going to do right now, some basic checkings, is sudo-l to see what permissions do we have as sudo. And oh, we have actually sudo permissions. It seems that we can run user bin python 3.9 home arsene heist.py. So we can run this heist.py file as arsene. That's interesting because it's not as root as arsene. So we should do sudo-u arsene and this command. Now, heist.py, it's a non-standard script, so we should go and probably look for it if we have permissions. Let me clear this thing up and let me just see. We do have node.txt. cat out that note. It says, hi, my friend IceX64. Can you please help check if my code is secure to run? I need to use it for my next heist. I don't want anyone else to get inside because it can compromise my account and find my secret file. Only you have access to my program because I know that your account is secure. Well, newsflash, it is not. See you on the other side, RC in Lupin. Interesting thing. So cat heist.py. Oh my God, I did the spelling wrong. And it's a simple Python script. It just import web browser. It's not yet ready to get in action. Web browser.open empirecybersecurity.co.mz. So web browser module essentially controls your web browser. And this is just printing out that, hey, it's not ready yet. And it's then controlling your web browser. It's opening your web browser. And it is just going to this address. That's really nothing interesting in this script here. And obviously, if we run this thing, we can just find this thing. The print command, we can find it in it would get printed. But web browser.open, we would not know if this is really working or not, because obviously this is working, but since we don't have the GUI, we don't know if the web browser is. Obviously, we can do PSAUX to find that if this if a process is firing off like this. So what to do now? We are kind of stuck here, but not for long, because now it's time for some enumeration. So let's go to the temp folder. Now, why we go to the temp folder? It's because you need to import some tools from your attacker machine to this machine, and you don't really want to spoil it. You don't really want to spoil the environment, because sometimes many people work on it. You don't want to leave traces, so to speak, in here. Temp folder is excellent for hiding tools, because the tools that are in the temp folder does not survive a computer restart or a computer shutdown. So that's what I mean. So what do I do now? We have some tools here. We have LinPeas. LinPeas is an awesome tool. We can check for privilege escalation vectors. So how do we import that? Simple. We just open a Python 3 HTTP server. And it says serving HTTP on 0.0.0.0 port 8000. Cool. We can get wget this from here now that we have this. So 192.168. Our address of Kali is 131. And we are importing linpeas.sh, linpeas.sh. Connection refused. Oh, sorry, I didn't mention the port here. My bad. Always mention the port. You can change this port also. You can provide the arguments. Let's say you can do 80 or 50-50. It's up to you, no problem. And we get this. Give it run permissions. Actually, give it 777 permissions because we need to run this once more time. So run this and let's see if anything is staying. So LinPeas gives us a very detailed view. Red and yellow, if 95% of PE vector, red, you should take a look into it. These are very important instructions. Let's go through this and see what we can find here. Yeah, I want to try looking for privilege escalation vectors rather than to just run a kernel exploit, because kernel exploits are very dangerous. It can leave the computer, leave the system in a very harmful state, possibly kernel panic stuff. So that's why I don't want to use these kernel exploits too fast. I mean, it's the very easiest way to get root, to be honest, but the risk associated with it is just very high. So yeah. Exploits gesture, eBPF stuff. eBPF is a module, the kind of like a rootkit stuff. I don't know much about eBPF, but when I'm studying about rootkits, this thing really pops up. It's a recent technology, I think. Dirty pipe. These are recent CVs, as you can see. NFT object UAF, use after free. We should look at this thing. Is this a virtual machine? Yes, it's running in VMware. So scrolling down, we don't find anything. 2 is 4. These are the network informations we have. This is the H0. It's 22, TCP is 80, 22. This is all good. We're on 1001, I think, yes. We already know this, that we can run highs.py as rscene. GDB is not found. And you can see rscene is, we are, I think, in here. Where is i664? We are in here. rscene is a higher privilege than i664 because the UID scene. So the less the UID becomes, the more privileged the user is, to be honest. You will also look at the groups here. So i664 just has this, whereas the rscene group has floppy, audio, dib, video, CD-ROM. These are all very interesting or juicy plug dev, net dev groups that we should always take a look at, because group vulnerabilities do exist and we can actually leverage that to get root. We have usual software, we have G++, GCC, so you know that we can compile kernel exploits. We have netcat. This is good. This is actually good. We have Python 3, we have sudo, we have wget. Then we have this OpenSSH private key, which we know that we have this. Then SUID files, mount, SU mount, SGID files, capabilities. I don't see anything with the red yellow thing, 95% of this. So I'm guessing linpiece.sh, su root, sudo, sudo-l, iceman. Yeah, you can run this. So you see that it's hinting us for this stuff. So probably something, the vector that we're looking at to escalate probably hides somewhere in here because it is hinting towards it. We don't see anything useful. So that was a bit of a bummer. We can't find it, but it happens. Automatic tools can't find stuff that we're looking for. It happens all the time, so we shouldn't be too dependent on these things. The thing that is actually kind of bothering me right now, and I'm going to share it, is that, let me just cat out this file. Okay, so if we somehow inject reverse shell in here, like os.system nc send a reverse shell, right? nc-e bin bash to our IP address. If we can do that in here, and if we run this, you see sudo-u rscene, all this stuff, then we can get a connect back as rscene, and we could probably escalate our privileges. That is absolutely possible because we are running this as rscene. We're not running this as i664. But the trouble is, let's actually try that. So I'm going to do AAA, just some typical test to see if we can write this file or not. And I think we cannot write this file. Nope, we cannot write this file. So that vector is gone. That vector we cannot use here because we cannot write this file. So we don't have write permissions. We cannot overwrite this file with nasty reverse shell, which we can get back as shell as rscene. The next thing that we would like to try is that you see there's an import here, import web browser in here. Now, there is a vector here actually. If you look at this very carefully, it's importing this from web browser. So whenever some API from this module is used, such as this this function from this API is used, such as webbrowser.open, it is using the code from this import, from this module in here, web browser module. So what I'm trying to actually imply here is that if we somehow overwrite this default Python module web browser.py, which is in the user lib Python directory, with our own code, then we can run that code with this one in the context of our scene, and we can get a reverse shell. So this is not a very new concept. This is a very old concept, actually, a very old trick in the book, which we can use the leverage to get our scene. If this is not clear to you right now, don't worry. I'm going to be going through this practically so you know what's happening. So to actually gain edit permissions to web browser, we would to actually edit this file, webbrowser.py, in the Python library. We should actually know that this web browser is indeed writable by us, because if it's not writable, then there's no point. Then we fail again. So we could actually check here for world writable files in the system. We can copy this first one. And it's a bunch of commands put together. I try to explain it. So find is obviously the find command in Linux. Writable, user is who am I? So it's searching in the context of our user, which is Isaac64 at this point. And then it is doing lsla to see what's it, and is writing all to dev null. And yeah, we do see webbrowser.py. What a coincidence. So it does want us to go that way, this box. So we can overwrite webbrowser.py with our reverse shell. And when this thing is run in the context of our scene using sudo, that thing would get us that thing would run this webbrowser.py, this our malicious code, and we would get code execute, and we would get a redirect reverse shell in here. Pretty interesting stuff. So actually, let me prepare for that. Let me increase this screen font. LNBP, whatever, no problem. I like to use 91. I don't know, but I like the number. So I'm going to be opening my netcat on that. So it's just handy, such that I don't forget to open netcat. So this is, by the way, this web browser is in CD. I think it's in CD. Oh, wait, hold on. I think it's in user lib, and then CD Python 3.9. Yeah. And we got webbrowser.py. So if we do head webbrowser.py, we see that it is indeed the normal webbrowser.py, and we can rewrite this. So let's actually do this. Let's actually put this theory to practical use. So we would search for Python 3 reverse shell. I think it would actually do payload all the things. All the things. Reverse shell cheat sheet. We are looking for, never mind, we could first find it. Python. You could use this one, subprocess, because some of these can work, some of this cannot work. Subprocesses.call, pty spawn. I think we could use this one. So copy this and go here in our directory. Just delete this. Wait, hold on, just getting confused. Empty file. We would name this web browser.py, because remember, the name should be exactly the same. Paste this. We need to do some beautification of the code here in order to get this into a file. Socket is.connect. Don't forget to connect our own IP address. We should actually test this before we send this there, so we don't have to do it repeatedly to get this thing. So process.call this. So I think this is good. We have to change our port number, and we have to change our IP address, which we will do here. 192.168.183.131. Save this, and we will go back in here. Let's actually go here and test if this is working properly, because it does need to work properly. There is no room for mistake. And yeah, we get a shell. So this is working. Cool. Check this again. And close this. It's good. So what the thing we're going to do is we're going to actually import this web browser.py to the temporary folder in this machine. And then we're going to copy it to there because we don't have write access to the library folder. So we have to be careful in that. So let's go to temp. Let's get this thing in here. 192, 168, 183, 131, add 8,000, web browser.py. It's .py1. Did I actually do it before? My previous sessions might be running it. Sorry for that. Yeah, you have to, this is the problem with the Vulnhub machines. You actually clean after you do this thing. So it could be cleaned up because it doesn't clean up automatically for you, not a script running like that. So yeah, but you get the point. So we get the web browser.py. If we do head web browser.py, we see that it is our malicious code, our malicious Python code. What now we do that is we copy this to copy this file to user lib python 3.9 web browser.py. We should actually check if it's correctly copied or not. So head user lib python 3.9 web browser.py. And yes, you see that it is correctly there. So now we can run the rscene code run the heist.py code in the context of rscene, and hopefully we should get shell as rscene. So let's do it. Okay, moment of truth now. Sudo -u rscene, because we're running in the context of rscene. We're doing user lib python 3.9. That's it. And we're using the entire address home rscene heist.py. As soon as we hit enter, we should get reverse shell. Why is it asking for password? Hold on. Sudo -l. Are we missing something? Oh, it's user bin. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. User bin. And we get a shell back. Excellent. I was actually nervous. So if you follow the steps properly, you should get a reverse shell back. So now you know what I mean. Bash -i to get an interactive shell. So that is what I actually meant. It's a very old trick you can use. And now we are as rscene. As you can see, it's rscene. Really amazing. So if you can use this step, you can escalate to rscene. It's really nothing. It's just simple finding a word writable directory and calling it so that its codes get run or malicious files gets run, and we get a reverse shell back. Now this here is not a SSH shell, it's a reverse shell. So we are in the rscene folder and we have actually the secret here. I think that's secret. Yes. Oh, it's just a, I don't like to forget my password, so this is my password. Yes, I'd like to get your password because it is important. We don't like to have this reverse shell for too long. If we can SSH through password, it's very stable shell and we like to actually have your shell, but we don't like this reverse shell at all. So if you have this opportunity to upgrade this to an SSH shell, please do it, because reverse shells sometimes are very unstable. And as you can see, this process has stopped because what happened really is this process is actually spawning this. Now, if you click Control-C to terminate this thing, this would actually continue doing this. So this is suspended, Actually, this is running, not suspended, running this. So you might want to go back and look for some other stuff in the context of ISEX64. So that's why I don't really like reverse shells. I mean, they're obviously very cool. Catching a reverse shell is obviously very cool stuff. But if you can upgrade via SSH, please do it. So I think I have the password. I'm going to try it before actually exiting this. So go to this new terminal in here, SSH. This time we're going to do it as rscene at 192, 168, 183, 140. We have the password. Okay, so we can log in. That password was valid. We can log in as rscene. Very cool. So now we can close this up, and you can see this terminal comes back to life. Exit this because we don't need this anymore. Hold on. Yeah, this we could actually. This is not a problem. This week we can run this. So yeah. Okay, going back to our scene, we have now successfully escalated our privileges, and there is many things now to look for. Again, we should start our privilege escalation process just like as we did for ISEX64. First things first, let's do sudo-l to see what we can run, and immediately we can see that we can run as root, no password, user bin pip. Now, before you run, this as I think from my experience doing machines and all this stuff, before you actually go for this automated tools like linpeas or LupinOne, please do some of the manual commands yourself, like sudo-l, find word writable files, finding SUID files, SGID files, looking for some very juicy stuff like MySQL password. Do this manually because sometimes these automated tools really fail. And it's not their fault they're failing. It's because every machine's configuration is a bit different. And sometimes, I mean, if I'm sure that if I run lin and I'm on this can actually find this. But it's actually easier, and it's actually very, what do I say, very fast to get to this thing, right? So if you remember, we have linpeas in our temp folder. So I will actually run that linpeas to see if it can find this. I think it will find it for sure. That we can run pip as root. So let's actually go it. Let's actually look for it. For anything, if you're even doing a Windows machine, I would suggest you to manually look for stuff before you actually go for automated tools. And yes, it did find out that user RC may run the following commands on LupinOne. No password, user bin pip. Fantastic job. So we have this pip binary, which we can run as root, and it has this ability to give us root perms. You say how? I say GTFO bins. Okay, so let me introduce, if you already didn't know this, GTFO bins is another awesome resource. So I'm going to just read the description here. GTFO bins is a curated list of Linux binaries that can be used to bypass local security restrictions in misconfigured systems. So it can be used to break out of some restrictive shell environments like rbash. It can be used to, what do you say, escalate your privileges, or it can just be used to do some other stuff, which whatever you want, okay? If you have sudo access or if you have anything to do with it. So as you can see, there is starting from 7z, apt, arp, bash. I think there's also bash. Yeah, there's obviously going to be bash. There is a copy. All these things are very prone to these kind of attacks. Our binary of interest is pip, and we see that pip is indeed here. Click on it. We don't want shell using pip. We're already in shell. We want a privilege escalated shell. Reverse shell, no, don't interested. File upload can be interesting. These are very interesting stuff, but for our context, it's not interesting. We're looking for sudo. We do find sudo. So it says if the binary is allowed to run as super user by sudo, which is in our context is yes, we can run it as sudo. It does not drop the elevator privileges and may be used to access a file system, escalate or maintain privileged access. Just the thing that we want. So following these commands, we can actually do it. Let me just scatter this in here and we could do this. So let us start our root attack. So I would actually, let me just get to root. I'm going to explain it in a jiffy. That what is this whole thing actually doing? Let me actually explain it while I'm typing here. So I'm going to just type this whole line. Let's just copy it and let me just explain it to you. Hold on. It's Control C, Control Shift V. Yeah. So no such file or directory. Did I do something wrong? I don't think so. Bash. Did I copy something? Hold on. As we will see that we don't have a temporary folder in here. Oh yes, we do have this thing. We do have this. So yeah, I figured out this thing. So okay, let me just hold on. Yeah, so let me just explain a bit what I really happened when I do this. So let's see. The first command I did was tf equals to this $sign mktm make temp dash d. Now what this thing does is it makes a temporary folder. So what is a temporary folder? You say we already have temp. Hey, what's the meaning of temporary folder? Well, you see we got a temp folder like this one. You see temp dot some random number in here, alphanumeric number. So what this thing does is makes a temporary folder, names it as tf, and then we get this thing. So this thing, this code, if you look at it properly, if you look at it very closely, it seems that it is actually setting up a bash shell, so setting up a bash shell using the OS command module from the Python library. It's importing the OS module and it's executing bin sh -c and it's going to the TTY module inside it. And it's all putting this whole script, putting this whole command script or this whole Python, this whole Python script inside a file called setup.py, which is inside this temporary folder. Now, as you can see here, I'm inside the temporary folder here. And if I do ls-la, we can see that there is something called setup.py. If we cat this, we can see that there's a malicious code inside it. So if we run this, we can get root. But how should we run this in the context of pip? Because we should run this as pip. Now, pip, whenever you download something from the pip, using the pip module, like pip install pygames, pip install something in Python, blah, 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 easy stuff. So whenever you install something from pip, it always searches for the setup.py. When it finds the setup.py, it runs that, and when it runs that, it downloads everything. Whatever they need, it downloads everything from using that setup.py. So pip always searches for that setup.py. Now, what happens when we use the sudo pip install tf? What happens when we do that? It searches for that setup.py and it executes the code inside it. Now, in this case, this code is a harmful code, as you can see. It's a code to give us a shell. So it executes that code in the context of root because sudo is used. And when we run this, we can see that we are indeed root. So let me clear this. You will see that it will run the code from setup.py, and yeah, when it runs the code from setup.py, we are in the root. So pip install whatever inside the tf folder, enter, and we are root. So you see what's happened. So to repeat again, sudo, when we use pip, pip actually goes into that folder and looks for a file called setup.py, and whatever setup.py instructions are there to download a particular module. Let's say you're downloading Pygames, or let's say you're downloading some Tkinter, some graphics module you need for your projects or for your work, something like that. You need pip to download some Python modules or something like that. So you can use pip. So it goes into that folder, looks for setup.py, executes the command from setup.py, and that's it. So here, what we did is we put a very malicious code inside the setup.py, which is inside our temporary folder, and then we forced pip to install everything which is there in the setup inside the temporary folder. It found the setup.py, had the malicious command, executed it, and now we are root. So that is basically what happened here. So we can confirm it. Let me just do bash-i to bring it into a very interactive one. Let me go into, make it just cleaner. Wait, hold on, till there. So you can do who am I, ID, and what does the thing to do, host name. All these things run together. You can see that you are root. Your UID has changed to 000, and the host name is LupinOne. So that's it. We have successfully rooted the machine here. And it was a really good machine. It was really good things to learn about certain aspects of how to enumerate a web service very properly, how to get the very common tricks in privilege escalation, like what happened when we jumped from i664 to our scene, and finally using GTFO bins, leveraging the sudo, our permissions on sudo to get root. So overall, it's a very nice machine. Now, one thing before actually ending this video, I would like to actually point out one thing. If you plan on doing this machine the second time, this thing is here, like just what I was actually telling you. Let's go to the temp folder. So the temp folder, everything what you installed here, downloaded here in the temp folder will not survive or restart. So temp folder will be fresh, But if you go to that cd user lib python 3.9, and if you go for webbrowser.py, it would remain your malicious file. So you have to change this file with the normal webbrowser.py again if you want to do this machine again. If you don't want to do this machine again, if you just for like single run, then it's fine. But if you want to do this again, the moment you're finishing the machine, please just change this back to the webbrowser.py. So you can easily find the code for the original webbrowser.py code. So you can change it and then go for again. So this is a webbrowser.py. You can do raw, and you can copy this and just run this here as you can run this here, not from this your machine. You can run this as wget, put that address in. So let me show you here. Wget, you put that address in, you get this, and then transfer it to the LupinOne machine in the temporary folder, and then copy it back, just like what we did while we were targeting our scene from i664. So yeah, that's pretty much of the LupinOne machine. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'd like to do more machines like this, machine walkthroughs like this. So if you like this video, please don't forget to like it, and please comment it on some parts if you felt that it was kind of insufficient, or comment your thoughts, just what you think about this video. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.